Hi, this is Scott Green with UTAC. We've got a 2007 Terraza, Buick Terraza van. It's a handicap van. And what's happened is the handicap lift has quit working. The motor is not running, and it appears to be stripped out. I can tell by just moving the lift up and down that the motor is, you can hear it kind of growling, and looks like the bolts are loose in the motor housing, and it's flopping around a little bit. But we're taking it off. We've actually already got it apart, but it's so cold out here, I went ahead and did that before we started the video. But I'm going to go ahead and go through this motor and see if this motor is going to be able to be repaired or if we're going to have to replace it. So hopefully we can repair it, but we won't know till we get into the thing. So we're going to go ahead and start that today. Actually, this unit right here, what happened is these screws right here, there's 4 of them that go in here, 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 and here, and holds this plate on. There was only 2 of them in it. They were at the bottom down here, and they were loose. And these 2 were missing, and this thing was wobbling real bad. And what it does, the shaft comes out and actually turns this and raises the lift gate on the handicap unit up. And I pried this unit off. This is the piece that when it turns around, this little lobe right here hits this switch for the bottom of the down position, and it hits this switch for the bottom of the up position. It comes around and hits it and pushes that switch so that it stops it when it gets to the top or the bottom. And I'm going to set it aside, and then all I got to do is lift this off right here and get it out of the way. This is the control, got the control units on it, and it's actually the bracket assembly for the lift. We're down now to the transmission, and I've already loosened these screws right here. They're Torx bit, T25 Torx bits, takes this out. Still like one more. Let me get that one more out right quick. One more Torx bit, and that will have all of those out. And we'll lift all these out, these screws, and then I'll take this transmission apart, because you can see the motor under here. This is the motor on this side. It comes up, and there's a gear in here, and I'm sure that there is a gear reduction to carry to this shaft, because this motor runs fast and this motor runs slow, so there's gear reduction to make it slow down and run slower. I'm going to gently take this off because I literally have never seen the inside of one of these. It looks like the whole shaft and all is going to come off together. That's fine. I'm going to take it off very carefully, and if you'll look, you can actually see the damage. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there are no teeth right here. These teeth are chewed off. Right here, see, they're all chewed off on this big shaft right here. This gear right here runs against this shaft right here, and these teeth are gone. What I'm going to attempt to do, and I don't know if I can do it or not, is I'm hoping that I can take this gear right here off and flip it over and put it back on the unit, and maybe the back side of these teeth will be okay to where I can use this back. If not, we'll have to buy another gear, which I don't know if it's available for this component. We'll have to look it up and see, but I'm going to take it apart and attempt from there. One thing on these videos that you're seeing of mine, I'm what they call the jack of all trades and the master of none. I learn as I go on everything, but I grew up having to do everything on everything. We never hired anything out. Everything was fixed by me. If it was broken as I was growing up, and I did this probably from the age of 8 all the way up. So even though I've never seen one of these, it don't bother me to take it apart because I kind of know how it works. I've been into manual transmissions. I've been into automatic transmissions. I'm an automotive instructor, but I work on everything, and you're going to see a lot of different videos on our YouTube channel with a lot of different things that we work on. It's because people bring stuff to me to fix, because I guess you'd say Mr. Fix It. Sometimes I'm Mr. Break It. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know everything, but I try my best to do the best job I can. But like this, just trying to determine what's wrong with this, it's easy to see that gear's chewed up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm hoping that gear I can flip it over. If I can't flip it over, then we'll get another one. But there's little tricks of the trade that I can do as I go along. So that's one of the things I wanted to show you. So we'll continue on. Okay, we're removing the gear out of the housing here. We'll take it out. And there's a little washer right there. I'm just going to kind of note that, make sure I keep that in place. I'll set this over out of the way. What I want to do really here is to take, you can see the teeth are chewed off of that. See that? I don't know if you can see it very well. Let me get a rag here. I'm sorry. You can actually see if I turn this like this, you should be able to see it. How those teeth are chewed off right there. See it? And see how they look pretty good right here. That's why, it's grabbing sometimes and not sometimes. You can see that. But if you'll notice, it only uses one side of these teeth. This side over here still looks good. This, even all the way around here. I know they're kind of chunked out about halfway over, but looks like they're all there on this side. So what I was going to do is try to take this gear off of here and just flip it over and put it back on the shaft. So I've got my pair of snap ring pliers here. I'm going to take the snap ring pliers and get down in these holes here and remove this snap ring here. Get it out of the way. And this other snap ring is a little tricky. I don't know if you'll notice, it's just like a little half moon snap ring right there. And what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to try to pop it out with just a little chisel and a screwdriver and a hammer. I'm going to hit it and see if it'll just pop on off of there. Actually, it didn't. It just rotated. I was afraid of that. So it's going to be a little stubborn to get out. We might can still get it. Let's see. Let me try one more lick here. There we go. That got it. It's not out, but you can see that it's halfway out of the holder. Let me grab a flat screwdriver right quick. Okay. And what I'm going to do is just come right in here and just kind of pop that on off there like that. You see it's like a little E-clip is all it is. It's just holding the gear to the shaft. Okay. Lay it over here out of the way, and hopefully this will just slide off here. I don't know, it may be pressed on. Yeah, I believe she's pressed on there. Let me I'm gonna give it a gentle tap here and see what it'll do, but I don't know, it may not want to come off. And if it don't, I'll put it in the hydraulic press and we'll take it off. I don't want to do any damage to it, any more damage than's already there. So let me move this motor and gear out of the way here. Some of you are going to say I should be using a brass hammer, but I'm not going to hit this hard. I'm just kind of tapping. And there it is. It's coming out. I didn't know if it would or not. Just lost the little keyway. It fell in the floor there, but that's not a problem either. There's the shaft. And now we've got the gear off. What we're going to do is just turn it over and see what happens here. See if I can get this back together now. Whoop. The key has to be in there to line that gear up. As you can see, some of this work turns into a massive amount of work. You go, well, how far do we go down with it? Well, we don't really know how far down we go with it but what we do is we knock it through and put the snap ring back on to hold it in place. Okay, so I'm going to take and put this snap ring here back on here to give me a stopping point. I got to get this turned so you can see it on the camera. I'm sorry. I'm just popping it on there. And there you go. You see it's on there. So now I know how far down to go with this. I've got to knock it back on here. And I don't want to... There we go. All the way down against that stop. Okay. And I'll go ahead and put this other snap ring on that we took off just a few minutes ago. It's holding the component in the housing of the unit. So we'll slide it back on here, put it in that little slot. Boom, there we go. And now we're back together, but I've just turned it completely over is what I've done. I've got the teeth on this side that'll catch it now. And what I'm hoping for is that will make it work okay. I'm gonna clean this up real good and re-grease it. This will take a little bit of time, so we'll come back after I've done the cleanup on this. Upon taking this apart, I laid this aside, this lid here, just a minute. But while I was changing this gear over right here, I just discovered, I was doing an inspection of everything, and I realized that this housing in here, if you can see that or not. Let's see if I can find something to point with. Right in here, this hole is not round anymore, it's egg-shaped, and I wondered why it was egg-shaped. Well, then I followed over where it connects, and it connects up to this gear right here. As you can see, there's a bearing right there on top, and if you can look at it, the bearing is chewed all to pieces. I mean, there's really nothing left of it. If I slide it off, it's going to come out into a million pieces there. So this little needle bearings up in there, and that's supposed to have a housing on it. So really, basically what we're up against here is I don't like the way this housing looks. It's ruined this housing because there's no bushing in here that I can change out. That bushing is watered out, and this bearing here has watered it out. So we may end up having to replace the entire motor. If so, I'm going to go ahead and do a little research on trying to find a motor for it instead of fixing this one. Okay, we realized that we had damaged this housing, and I tried to order just a housing and a gear right here for it, and it was unable to do that. This company, it's called Braun, B-R-A-U-N, I think is how you spell it, makes this motor, and they still have the rights to it, so we had to order a new motor. I got it in today, and we're going to change over this base unit, which this unit right here basically holds the switches, the stop switches for the up and down motion of the lift, and also it holds the bracket assembly that holds this in place to bring the bracket up and down. So we're going to put it on. I slip it over the top, then I've got to put 4 bolts in. This was the whole problem originally, is 2 of the bolts were missing. We only had 2 bolts in one side right here, so I'm gonna put these 2 originals back in here that are Allen screws, and then I'm gonna put the two regular hex head bolts on here that I have in stock in my shop in here. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and tighten these bolts on up now, and I'm gonna use an electric ratchet here to snug these down, and we'll put the extra oomph on them in just a minute. Just gonna get them all started down first. And now what I had done is I had marked this eccentric right here. This eccentric, what it does is it turns around and hits that switch, and then turns around and hits that switch, so that when it's all the way down, it stops. When it's all the way up, it stops, and vice versa. It's the switch. And the way I made sure this is still lined up, I didn't want to mess up my calibration of it. So I made a little mark right here. You see that little dot? Well, the dot lines up with the keyway hole. I've taken the keyway off because it actually does not line up with this opening for the keyway. If you can see, if I put this keyway back in the slot right here temporarily, and then if I put this on here like this, you see it's not lined up. This was actually lined up dead center of that keyway assembly. So I just removed the keyway out of the way and used just the opening. I'm gonna have to lean my head over here and get I'm gonna mess up the camera view here for just a second, but I want to make sure this dot is lined up with this keyway, so I'm gonna have to do that right quick. Let me get my eyeball over this because I want to make sure I'm exactly on the money. Don't want to have any problems with it being out of time. It looks like that'll work perfect right there. And I'm just gonna kind of gently tap it down. Right. It don't take much to hit it. I'm using a heavy hammer there, but it's just a very small amount. So I'm gonna go get a socket that'll go over this so I can drive this all the way down to the bottom so it'll hit these 2 switches. So let me get it right quick. We got the socket here, and I'm just gonna put this right over the top, and I'll take a hammer and gently just tap it down. You see it's going down very easily, not very hard at all, just a gentle, just a gentle bump. And when I get down close to those switches, if you'll notice, I'm still in line perfect with that keyway opening right there. I'm getting close to that switch right there. What I'm going to do, before I go any further, this switch is actually activated in this position, so I'm going to push this switch over out of the way before I hammer anymore. If you could hold that for me right there, just in the center so I don't hit anything, I'm going to gently tap that down. And you see it's going right down past that switch. There it is, that's all the way down. All right, and now, you can see it's actually activating this switch. When it comes around, it'll activate this switch. So that's what it does. It's designed for that, and it's actually dead center. We're in pretty good shape. Might be off just a hair. I think as it went down, it moved around just a little bit. I'm gonna see if I can knock it around right here to get it back in line a little bit. It's not that tight, so it should move pretty easy. Yeah, it's moving very easy. In fact, I want to get it right dead center. There we go. That is dead center, exactly where it needs to be. And now we're ready to put the unit itself back onto the car. But let me go ahead and unplug this. I want to unplug this old motor. This is the connector for it. Unplug that connector right there. Bring this switch on around, and what I'm going to do is plug this motor. As you can see, it's square, and you can't plug it up but one way. It'll only go one way. And it's even got, I see there's a little line-up arrow there to make it line up right, so I can just push that in there. And it's a little weatherproof connector, which I don't know that that's very important because it's not in the weather, but it's a nice, good, tight connector. And now, before we finish up, I'm going to go ahead and put the keyway in. The key has got to go in here. I couldn't put it in, see, with that putting that shaft on, so that eccentric on. So now we'll tap this key into place. And got a little bit big hammer right there for that job, but that's okay. I'll take a little punch and just lightly tap it into place. There we go. All right, now the keyway is in there, and we're ready to put it in the van. So we'll get it. Here's the unit. Everything's tightened up and ready to mount this assembly in the van. Okay, the way this goes together is this motor actually sets right in this opening. This piece here goes over the shaft, the other half of this shaft right here. This is the first half of the shaft. And the keyway on this motor actually goes in this little hole right here. These 4 bolts here go into this and holds it together, holds it on the shaft. The problem we have is this motor is not in the right time position. When I set it up here in place where it's supposed to go like this, it actually sets down on this little housing right here, and this goes right on the top. Real simple to assemble. All I gotta do is bolt all this back up now, but you see it's in place now very simply. But the problem is the keyway is turned up right here, and the keyway's got to be turned that way facing this. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to run the motor around to the other side and see if it will stop in the right position. If it won't, it should stop in the right position, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to give it a try and see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and hook the power to it, and the power source is under here. A little hard to get to, but I'm going to plug it up and see how she does. Let me get it plugged up right here. Okay, we're going to mash the button here and see how this thing works, because this keyway is around on one side, but the battery was dead on the van, so we're going to have to try it again. So we've got the battery charged up now, and we're going to mash this button and see if this thing will go around, move around to this other side so it'll line up with this. And so here we go. Nothing's happening. Let me do this. I'm going to try it with it running and see if it'll do anything. Well, it don't want to do anything. I may have to take an electrical connection and move the motor, unplug the motor itself and turn the motor around manually to the other side and start, because it's just out of time. I've had to do this before. That's probably what we're going to have to do. Just unplug this connector right here, and then we'll take a 12-volt power supply and hook to the motor and run the motor around to the position it needs to be in, and then it should start, because it's actually the van is thinking that the lift is already up right now, and the lift is already down. So I don't know. We're just in a weird position here. I don't know for something that maybe lets it know that because the door is open, it may be what it is. I'm guessing that's probably what's going on. The door is open right now, so the lift thinks that the lift is well, it's in the up position, but the door's open. So that's what's happening. We're hearing that noise right now when I mash the button of it trying to close the door, and it won't do that because the lift is down. So that's probably what's going on. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just run a power source to this motor. So I have to take a break here in a second to get me a power source that I can hook to this, and we'll move this motor around to the position it needs to be in manually, and then we'll hook it back up and it should work fine. So we'll do that right now. What we've done is instead of using a power supply, I couldn't locate a power supply that would work to run this. We're just going to come around here to the van's front, to the battery, and I'm going to take two jumper wires. I've got one hooked to hot, one hooked to ground, and I'm going to attach to the motor just temporarily, just for a second, to get the switch, the motor to move around in the position that I need it in. So I'm gonna hook one to hot and one to ground. This might not be the right direction. If it's not, I'm just gonna bump it and then I'm gonna let go and then see what it does. Because if it's going the wrong way, I'm gonna have to turn it back the other way. So we're just gonna see right quick. And I've got it the right way, so that's good. So basically I'm just gonna touch here, and you can see the motor coming around. And I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way to the down position, which is right there. And that should be pretty close because that's lined up straight with the other side. So I think that'll get it where we need it. And let me take my jumper wires off here for safety, because I don't want to leave any wires connected. So we have short. This is the ground side, so it won't hurt anything, but we'll get it off too. And now we've got the motor turned around the position that it needs to be in. And I'm assuming now that it'll probably work fine. We're going to go ahead and see. I'm going to go ahead and get it mounted into place if I've got it where it needs to be, and it should work fine. So here we go. Okay, basically what we had to do here is take a floor jack out in the shop out here and jack up on the ramp so that we could get this arm turned around to the exact spot on that gear. It's not right on it, see, so we had to get it right on it. In fact, I'm going to try to move it here into position, and you can see that I got it kind of shifted around a little bit. You can see that the keyway is lining up with the gear now, and that's what we want. We want this keyway up in here to line up perfect with that steel part right there. And I don't know if you can see that in the hole. Let me get the light in there so you can see a little better. Might be able to see it. Let's see. Maybe this will help. Trying to get you a good view. It's not working out, but let me try to move this out of the way, see if that'll help. Actually, I can kind of pick this up and move it where I need to. Sort of looks like I might have to raise it up a little more. Or, I don't know, is it? Or, I don't know if that's that looks like it might line up right there, I believe. I believe when I fasten this together, now the keyway, that keyway right there will go right into that slot right there when I put this other half moon piece on this side. So we're gonna do that now. We finally got this lined up and put this half moon piece on, and we started putting one screw in. I'm gonna go ahead and try to start this one screw up and get it run into place. It's actually started. I'm just gonna use my air ratchet or my electric ratchet to get it to go in there a little better. Just to kind of hold it in place. I don't want to tighten it all the way up. Just want to snug it a little bit. And before I start anymore, we're going to make sure that this keyway is in the slot that it needs to be in. And it appears to be. Looks pretty good. It is. And we're going to have to, now I've got to put these other 4 bolts in. Right here that holds the rest of it on. Take me just a minute to get them all started. And that's the last screw. Got it tight. All right. I got to run that in. I'm sorry. I don't have it in there good. Did I tighten that one? I'm not getting it. And there's the last one. We had a little trouble tightening the bolts because I couldn't get in the right position because, to be honest with you, I was holding the camera and trying to turn everything around the right way, and I just want to get it right, so we got all 4 of the bolts good and tight, and they're tight now. All I've got to do now is tighten this brace. Right here, there's 2 nuts on the back of it. I'll tighten those 2 nuts, hold it in place, put a little cotter pin right here, a little cotter pin right here, and here's the 2 little, not cotter pins, but little key pins. They just go right in here to hold this together. Maybe this smaller little cover's not in very good shape. It's already been busted. All right, here we go. We'll give it a test try.